24 picks, 24 players you need to know in the 2024 rookie class before the 2023 college football season kicks off. Heading your way right now. All right, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, here with a 2-round Superflex PPR, no tight end premium rookie mock draft. Make sure to give the video a like. Make sure to subscribe to the Rookie Big Board because we are going to be tracking this 2024 class all throughout the season. And make sure to leave a comment here. I know mock drafts are always a little divisive, but I love chopping it up and getting into it with the comments here. So make sure you let me know how you feel about these picks. Now, before I give you my first selection here, I want to point out that with all of my mock drafts, I'm not just reading off of my rankings here. I'm combining my rankings with what I believe consensus is right now. If the draft was to happen right now, a 2024 rookie draft, it's a combination of my rankings and consensus. If you want to see my rankings, they are available. Every player who I'm going to talk about on this episode has a scouting report logged already over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. And the link to join will be in this episode description. All right, without any further suspense, let's jump right into it here with the 101. It's going to be a consensus choice. No drama this year, folks. It's Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC. Now, Caleb Williams is a reigning Heisman Trophy winner. He is a dual threat athlete. He has the ability to shred defenses with his athleticism and his burstiness on the ground. He displays good field vision while scrambling, but he pairs that with a really nice arm. He can push that ball 40, 45 yards downfield. He's got good accuracy, and folks, he is a gunslinger in the best way possible. You're going to hear Pat Mahomes talked about in the same discussion as Caleb Williams, but when thinking about his rookie value heading into the draft process, I want you to think about Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have that same pre-draft value, and in a year from now, we're going to be talking about Caleb Williams as a consensus first-round Superflex startup dynasty quarterback. All right, at 102 here, you can get a little spicy with it, and I'm going to go wide receiver, even in a super flex format, because, folks, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., is just that special. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. had great production last season for the Ohio State Buckeyes, but even more impressive was his tape. He shows athleticism. He shows big playability. He shows great route running. He's got great size here to build out a full profile. We're talking about a player who can legitimately go in the top 5 of the NFL draft. If you want to think about a player to compare him to, think about that Jamar Chase value coming out. Except what do we know now? Just how impactful rookie wide receivers can be, which is why I think he could go above the next player that I'm going to talk about, which is quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. Now, I would say Drake May is in the conversation for 102 for a lot of folks, given that it's a super flex format, and there's plenty to like about Drake May. He commands an offense, right? And when he was locked in for UNC, he was unstoppable. Big arm. He's got the right balance of mobility and arm strength here for fantasy football purposes. He's not necessarily going to totally shred you on the ground like Caleb Williams will, but he can be effective and he can definitely score touchdowns. Think about it in a similar way to Dak Prescott when he was scoring 6-7 touchdowns on the ground and then really putting up points through the air as well. That's the kind of upside a guy like Drake May is going to bring to the table, except with an even bigger frame and a more consistent arm. Coming in here at 104 is going to be Brock Bowers, the tight end out of Georgia. And yes, he is technically a tight end. We're going to want that designation for him for fantasy football purposes. But if you watch his film, you're going to see somebody who looks like much more than your prototypical tight end. Georgia lined him up all over the field. They lined him up in line, split out, split in. They lined him up as a running back. He had rushing touchdowns for the Bulldogs last year. He is a great contested catch player. He's fast for his size, he's got athleticism, and he wins before and after the catch. So despite the fact that this is not a tight end premium format, I'm definitely still willing to take Brock Bowers as high as 104. Now we're going to start to get into running back territory now that we've gotten those four guys off the board. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a tier break here as we get into 105. I'm going to start with Raheem Sanders, the running back out of Arkansas. I like Raheem Sanders a little bit more than who I think is the consensus running back one right now, although there's plenty of talent at the position overall. You look at Raheem Sanders, he's explosive off the line of scrimmage, he's powerful and productive against SEC defenders. I like his ability to operate within a phone booth. And I actually have a full player breakdown, full profile breakdown, I should say, on Raheem Sanders on the YouTube page here. So go ahead and check that out. At 106 is the guy I alluded to. I think he's a little bit more of the consensus running back one at this point in time, and that's running back Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. You look at Travion Henderson, had great production as a true freshman for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Last year, I actually thought his tape improved a little bit, but the production wasn't quite there. He was battling with a foot injury. This is going to be a big season for Travion Henderson. If he puts it all together, he could be a first-round NFL draft selection. If not, he's probably still hanging around that 40 to 60 overall territory. He should be looking at good draft capital regardless. All right, before we keep going here, let's do a little bit of a recap. First six picks: quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State, quarterback Drake May out of UNC, tight end Brock Bowers out of the University of Georgia, running back Raheem Sanders out of the University of Arkansas, and running back Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Now, this one's going to be a little bit controversial here. I'm leaning into the upside, and I'm going to go with Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. Now, Quinn Ewers is not actually the next highest ranked quarterback on the rookie big board. We're going to talk about that quarterback in detail when we get to him. But I think folks recognize the tools that come with Quinn Ewers. He's got a big arm. He knows how to use it. He's a fearless passer. All right, when he gets his mechanics together and puts it all together, he can lead his receivers downfield very well. We haven't seen it all put together over a period of time, but if you just watch the first quarter of the Alabama game last year, you could really talk yourself into Quinn Ewers being a top 10 selection. I think if the NFL draft happens today, he's not even a top 50 NFL draft selection. But folks, that's why the draft hasn't happened today. He had a perfect recruiting score coming out of high school. He's stepping into year 2 in the Steve Sarkisian offense, which is a huge year. That was the year that helped Mac Jones go from probably a late day 3 selection to a top 20 NFL draft selection. And Quinn Ewers is certainly more talented than Mac Jones. So if he can put all those pieces together, he's going to see his NFL draft stock skyrocket like nobody else. All right, up next here at 108 is the other Ohio State wide receiver. And I hate to say it like that, but folks, there's no shame in being the second best wide receiver playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that's Emeka Egbuka. Now, Emeka Egbuka here, I love his ability to work routes in the short field. I think he creates space very well off the line of scrimmage. He's quick and he's agile. I do want to see him work more consistently into the deep field and show a little bit of that big playability if we're going to look specifically at his fantasy football upside going into next year. Coming in at 109 is somebody I think I'm a little bit higher on than the 9th overall selection, but I don't think consensus is quite there yet for whatever reason with Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen coming in at 6'2", 240. He is a cut up 240. He powers through Big Ten defenders. I think he's a decisive runner. He's a powerful runner. He operates well in a phone booth. I'm really excited to see Braylon Allen operate in the Wisconsin offense this year. Wisconsin, you may know, is a traditional power run approach. Well, this year with a new head coach and Luke Fickell, new offensive coordinator coming over from UNC, they're going to open up some quasi-air raid concepts, and we're going to get to see Braylon Allen now succeed in a different scheme here. Now, in his true freshman and true sophomore years, he put up back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. So if he adds a third one of those in a new scheme, that's going to be really impressive. And guess what, folks? When he walks across that draft stage, he won't even be 21 yet. You have production, you have age, and you have versatility. What more could you want out of a running back prospect? All right, coming in at 110 is wide receiver Malik Nabers out of LSU. I got to tell you, folks, there might not be anybody that we're talking about on this episode that impressed me more in their summer scouting evaluation than Malik Neighbors. I love his ability to work along the boundary, create space consistently. He's explosive, he's athletic, he's got great vertical ability. I love his ball tracking ability, his ability to pull in off target passes. If you watched LSU's offense progress over last year, you realize that Malik Neighbors took a huge step from game 1 to game 13. Now, heading back, running it back with Jaden Daniels for another year, I think we're going to see even more progression out of Malik Neighbors. I'm not sure that he's on everybody's radar right now, but you can clip this. He's going to be a first round NFL draft pick in 2024. All right, we're going to get a little bit of run here for the Michigan Wolverines starting at 111. I'm going to go with running back Blake Corum. Now, running back Blake Corum, a lot of folks thought he was going to declare for the 2022 NFL draft, but a late season injury stubbed him and kind of set him back. So he's going to come back for another season at Michigan. He's been super productive and was even in the Heisman conversation heading into last year. He's got a low center of gravity and he powers through Big Ten defenders. I love his shiftiness. He's got great vision. He understands when to cut back, and he's got that ability to power through the second level of the field. Now, I got to say, this is high compared to where I have Blake Corum in my rankings. I'm concerned about that injury. I want to see him come back healthy. I'm concerned that the NFL might dock him a little bit for coming back for that senior season. And he is still playing undersized, especially relative to guys now that he's going to have to compete with, like Braylon Allen, Travion Henderson, Raheem Sanders. He's just looking a little underwhelming compared to this year's running back class. So I'm concerned for Blake Corum. I think he's closer to late day 2 NFL draft capital. And there's some running backs here that we're going to talk about still that I think could go earlier than him in the NFL draft. But nonetheless, consensus definitely would have Blake Corum in the first round of a rookie draft. So I didn't want to totally snub him in that way. Now, I alluded to this quarterback earlier, and that's J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback out of Michigan. I am driving the J.J. McCarthy hype train. It doesn't seem like a lot of folks have jumped on board yet, and I'm totally fine with that because this is a projection here. When I watch J.J. McCarthy's tape, I see a lot of traits and I see a lot of opportunity for growth. Now, remember, J.J. McCarthy did not have last offseason to work in as the starter. He was technically in a QB battle with Cade McNamara, the experienced player who had brought Michigan a Big Ten title the year before. J.J. McCarthy comes in, beats him out in week 3 of the season last year. Cade McNamara ends up transferring to Iowa. And if you watch, the Michigan offense really relied on Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, establish the run first, and let them lead the way. So you do see J.J. McCarthy, as he's getting his feet underneath him as a young quarterback, really kind of look like a game manager. And early on in the season, what we mostly see is his mobility. And he is a mobile athlete. He's got good vision. He's willing to take off. He's willing to power through for the last couple yards. All right, so he can be a game maker in that sense. But you see, as the season goes on, Michigan turns him over and lets him pass the ball more. Jim Harbaugh gets more confident in his young quarterback. And you can see he's got really solid mechanics. He has good arm strength. He puts it together well. I think we're going to see a big step forward with J.J. McCarthy this year, and I think we're going to be talking about him in that first round conversation for the 2024 NFL draft. I'm very excited about it. I don't think consensus has J.J. McCarthy as a first round pick, even in Superflex league right now, but I absolutely do. All right, before we jump into the second round and 12 more picks, let's go ahead and recap the second half of the first round of this Superflex PPR No Tight End Premium 2024 rookie mock draft. At 107, it was Quinn Ewers, the quarterback out of Texas. 108, Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin at 109. At 110 is Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU. 111, Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. 112, J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. And starting here in the second round, pick 201 is going to be Donovan Edwards, running back out of Michigan. Now, Donovan Edwards is actually right now, it could change. Don't hold me to it. But the first rookie big board, the first official rookie big board release, it's got Donovan Edwards as running back 1. I love his athleticism. I love his burstiness. I think he's an underrated player in terms of his vision And he's got a great pass catching ability as well. He's got good size to boot, rounds out that profile. Now, why a lot of folks have Donovan Edwards below Blake Corum is if you look at the way the Michigan offense works, Blake Corum has been the primary back over the course of the 2 seasons that Donovan Edwards has shared the backfield with him. But when Donovan Edwards has gotten on the field, he's been super explosive and he's been super efficient. Now, I mentioned the injury to Blake Corum at the end of last year. When Donovan Edwards had to step in and be the dude, he took over. He produced big numbers in the biggest games of the season. Ohio State, the Big Ten championship, the college football playoff. He had massive stats, massive production here over those last 3 games. So Donovan Edwards showed he can be the lead back. And if Blake Corum had gone off to the NFL, I think we'd have this different perception of the type of production that Donovan Edwards is going to put up this year. But at the end of the day, folks, even if he doesn't put up those massive numbers, he's going to have plenty of tape to impress NFL teams. And front offices aren't going to be sad about the idea of getting a running back with plenty of tread left on his tires. All right, coming in at 202 here is wide receiver Troy Franklin out of Oregon. I got to tell you, folks, we're not talking enough about Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon. I like this guy a lot. Now, he's got a little bit of a smaller frame, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't slow him down at all. He's a great route runner. He's versatile. He plays really well along the boundary, separates into space, moving into the deep third of the field. He's aggressive moving across the middle of the field. He's physical. He understands space very well. I mentioned his smaller frame. He is always in position to win. He's always in a better position than the defensive back. He's always able to outwork that nickel coming down on him. So the bottom line here is whether you're playing Troy Franklin inside or outside, he's going to find space. He's going to bring in the ball, and he's dangerous with the ball in his hands after the catch as well. I don't think consensus is in yet on Troy Franklin, but at 202, I think he would return great value. Coming in at 203 is somebody that folks are very excited about after a big season at Michigan State last year, and that's wide receiver Keon Coleman. He's now transferred to Florida State. Keon Coleman is a true dual sport athlete. He played basketball for Tom Izzo on the Michigan State Spartans squad, right? So you look at Keon Coleman, 6'4", true X boundary threat. He's athletic. He's got great long speed. He's going to be a threat into the deep field. And he's going to be somebody who, when it's time to play highlight clips throughout the pre-draft process, people are going to be very excited about Keon Coleman, and for good reason. All right, coming in here at 204 is somebody who I really like. That's running back Will Shipley out of Clemson. I think Will Shipley has just not been given enough credit up until this point. He really has been the Clemson offense over the last 2 years. And what I love about him for fantasy football purposes, he is a true dual threat player. He's got great hands. Clemson used him out of the backfield a lot, but when he's on the ground, I think he's got great vision. He's decisive. He's powerful. He can make guys miss in tight space. He's really versatile. And I think this year in Garrett Riley's offense, the new offensive coordinator coming over from TCU, now the offensive coordinator for Clemson, I think you're going to see that explosiveness on display a lot more. And folks, DJU struggled as a passer last year. ACC defenses stacked the box against Will Shipley. They brought 8 or 9 guys a lot of the time. With more space in this Garrett Riley offense, Will Shipley is going to look absolutely phenomenal. All right, coming in here at 205 is wide receiver Rome Odunze out of the University of Washington. Now, Rome Odunze has his truthers for sure. And I think a lot of folks wanted to see him probably in the first round of this mock draft. I got to tell you, I walked away from Odunze's tape review not as impressive as I wanted to be. Now, I absolutely understand why you'd get excited about Rome Odunze. He's got good short area agility. He works well with the ball in his hands after the catch. And you look at him and his ability to operate and win in the short field, and it's very exciting. But it feels like a little bit of a tweener profile. Given his size and his likelihood to play along the boundary to succeed for fantasy purposes, I want to see him be able to consistently separate. I want to see him be able to win those one-on-one situations and just show overall physicality. I didn't see that from Roma Dunze. Now, I'm not saying I'm out on him by any means, but I'm certainly not as high on him as consensus, and he's not in the top 4 of my rankings right now, but I could not leave him off of this rookie draft because he's definitely somebody that a lot of folks are locked in on right now. Somebody else folks are definitely locked in on right now, coming off the board here at 206, is going to be Trey Benson, the running back out of Florida State. Now, Benson transferred to Florida State after starting his career at Oregon, and in just 140 carries, he produced at a high level for the Seminoles last year. So there's a lot of excitement over this player. He's a power back, he's physical, and he has the ability to burst through with great lower body strength, run over defenders, and take that ball into the second level. Now, I will say, Benson is another player that I do have some hesitations on. I struggle with his vision. There are way too many examples when you watch his tape of him dancing behind the line of scrimmage and being indecisive. Vision is typically not a trait that improves from the college to the NFL level. If you can't put it on your college tape that you're decisive and able to see the field, you're probably not going to learn that when the game gets faster and you don't have the lead back reps to be able to improve, right? So I need Benson to be able to show improved vision in the 2023 season before I'd be willing to take him in the second round of a 2024 rookie draft. Nonetheless, the upside is there. The opportunity is there, and it definitely wouldn't shock me if Trey Benson is in the top 24 of my rankings come April. So he's absolutely somebody that we should be talking about. Next up is somebody who I am more excited about, and that's running back Devin Neal out of Kansas. Devin Neal is an electric runner. I love his decisiveness. I think he's a really great combination of speed and power, and he's been super productive behind the Kansas offensive line. I think he's a viable option out of the backfield, and he's somebody who may not be the most exciting. You're not always going to see him on prime time, but when it's time for Devin Neal to enter that pre-draft process, he's going to be somebody who catches the eye of NFL front offices. And he's somebody who, we get into March, we start getting excited about. We get into April, all of a sudden we get into this fever pitch. But you can go back, watch this video, and realize that you knew about him all the way back in August. All right, next up here is Antoine Juice Wells. Antoine Juice Wells had the quietest all-SEC season. The wide receiver out of South Carolina had massive production paired up with Spencer Rattler for the Gamecocks last year. If you don't know Antoine Wells, I don't blame you. He's a lesser-known name. He started off at the FCS level and was at James Madison University, transfers to the University of South Carolina, and in his first year is massively productive. Juice Wells is a really fun combination of speed and size. I think he could play that big slot role in the NFL. He's got great hands, excellent ball tracking. And I'm not just trying to put a stray here on Spencer Rattler, but Antoine Wells, man, he knows how to react to an underthrown ball. All right. He had to do that a lot for the Gamecocks. I love his physicality and I love his ability to consistently create separation. All right, coming in here at 209, this is a Superflex mock draft, and honestly, folks, here's what happens. You got to shove some quarterbacks in here at the end of this because there's going to be some guys with some really big upside, but we're not too confident on their ability to translate yet. But let's start here with quarterback Joe Milton out of Tennessee. Huge arm, biggest arm. Folks, I mean, it's not an exaggeration. He's got the biggest arm in the country. He can throw the ball 60, 65 yards downfield with ease. He can put the ball anywhere on the field. And if you watch his ability in the pocket, he actually has really sound mechanics. He's got big frame, 6'5", 220, I believe. And he shows the ability to be a dual threat athlete. He can run outside the pocket, run over SEC defensive backs that try to drag him down, right? In the pocket, he struggles with accuracy. If he was even a medium level accuracy, we'd be talking about him as a top 10 selection. He's got all the tools, folks. I just mentioned it. athletic ability and an arm that can put the ball 65 yards downfield, but he struggles with consistent accuracy. Now, if you go and watch the Orange Bowl from last year, the accuracy actually wasn't that bad, but I'm not going to be sold on it yet. We need a full season of tape and consistency. But I'm telling you right now, if he puts that together, if he's a 65% completion rate, even, which isn't super high at the college level, he's going to be a first round NFL draft selection. This is an absolute upside discussion, but it's one that we need to be having. All right, coming in here at 210 is Jatavian Sanders, the tight end out of Texas. Just two tight ends taken in this draft. And quite frankly, folks, right now it's Brock Bowers in a tier of his own and Jatavian Sanders as the tight end too. With the opportunity for some guys to rise up and kind of be in that tier 2 conversation. Jatavian Sanders is an athletic pass catcher. He'll often look more like a big slot at times for Texas. They showed the ability to target him in the red zone very successfully last year. He's got good hands, solid route running ability. Definitely somebody that you're going to want to be keeping an eye on when you're flipping around. You get to watch the Texas offense. Pay attention to the tight end, Jatavian Sanders. 211 here, we're going back to the QB well, and we're going Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. Michael Penix Jr. had a big season in 2022 for the Washington Huskies. He's got prototypical size, and he's got the ability to move the ball all around the field with some level of athleticism. Now, the big question mark for me with Michael Penix Jr. and why I have him, sliding right to the bottom of this mock draft, despite the fact that some folks would want to talk about him maybe in the early second round. Folks, the injury history is significant, and it will be a major red flag for NFL front offices. You always want to get ahead of these injuries. You don't want to be chasing them. And I'm going to temper down Michael Penix Jr. pretty consistently throughout the process because of those injuries. All right, last selection here, and I don't want to say the best for last, but certainly somebody that I left really excited about his tape review. It's going to be Bo Nix coming in at 212. Now, Bo Nix has been a roller coaster for folks who have been in on the Devy side of things since he started his career. Bo Nix, a legacy recruit, 5-star quarterback, lands at Auburn, starts as a true freshman for the Tigers and Gus Malzahn, and really impresses as a true freshman. He struggles in his second season with Malzahn, then goes through the Brian Harsin transition here where the whole offense was an absolute mess, tries to stick it out for his Auburn pride, ends up transferring to Oregon, and go figure, in his first year transferring to Oregon, he is a legitimate Heisman candidate. Great touchdown to interception ratio, great passing yardage, and good rushing yardage as well. You look at Bo Nix, and he is an absolute gunslinger. He is so fun to watch play. You watch his ability to throw the ball on the run, does not drop off, improvises arm angles very well. He is accurate. He has consistent mechanics. I like his footwork. I like his ability to throw from a steady platform and even control that accuracy when passing on the run. I like his ability to push that ball into the second and third levels of the field, maintaining that level of accuracy. It's not a popular opinion right now to have Bo Nix in a top 24 rankings, but I absolutely do. He's got all the tools that I can see an NFL team falling in love with, and that's the point of this mock draft. It's a combination of my feelings, my evaluations, and then also giving you a realistic idea of what consensus looks like at this point in time. But I'm not leaving Bo Nix out of the conversation. All right, there you have it. 24 players in this mock draft, 24 picks. These are guys that you should be paying attention to once the college football season kicks off. Now, there's certainly players I like and certainly scouting reports that I wanted to talk about that I couldn't squeeze into this 2-round mock draft. If you leave me a comment and ask me about a player you want to know about that I snubbed from this episode, I'll absolutely get back to you with my thoughts. So make sure to go ahead and do that. Also, in the episode description, what you're going to find is a link to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Get in on the action, folks, heading into the season. The best way to win your 2024 rookie draft is to be ahead of the game and start the conversation now. And you could try out the Rookie Big Board for free by heading into the Discord. All right, you're going to get an opportunity to look at the free version of the Discord, 6 or 7 channels. You can ask me questions, chop it up, and be a part of our community. The link to that is also in the episode description. Make sure to subscribe, Like I said, leave me a comment, like the video, and as always, I appreciate you checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board.